Prosecutors should never lose a case because if they have a case that they could possibly lose, they can dismiss the case. My name is Darren Woodfork, and I'm an attorney here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I've been practicing law here for 25 years. In the beginning of my career, I worked at the public defender's office here in Maricopa County, and I saw the inner workings of the criminal justice system. And I want to talk, and today I'm going to explain to you, kind of like I said, why prosecutors should never lose a case and why real life law is different than what's on TV. Because again, the prosecutors, they have all the leverage in the criminal justice system. I remember when I was a I was a public defender, and I remember I was going down to the prosecutor's office one day, and I had to interview a police officer in one of the cases I was handling. And I remember I walked into the prosecutor's office, and on the board, they had a whiteboard of like wins and losses. They had like two columns of their wins and losses. And this is in the prosecutor's office. And I just thought that was absolutely ridiculous because it's not like the prosecutor has a win-loss record because they're the ones who are supposed to be doing justice. They're only supposed to bring, just cases. They shouldn't be prosecuting somebody they know who is innocent, basically. And so they really should never lose a case. There should never be any losses in the loss column in their board, in their office. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that that's the problem with the justice system is that they have so much power. The prosecutors have so much power and leverage when they're prosecuting these people. That's why everybody pleads guilty in a criminal justice case. That's why I think 95% of the people plead guilty because the leverage is so much on the state side. And again, it's just not like TV or it's not even like true crime, really, because you're seeing just a few of the cases that end up in the news and end up in trial. I said before, maybe if I can find it, I'll put it up here in the card, and I'll put it at the end of the video, is that most of the people who are doing trials or most of the criminal defendants who are in a jury trial, most of them are in trial just because they have no other choice. It's not because they want to be. No other reason in that they just don't have an option. Most of the cases when we were public defenders, most of the cases we tried was because, the guy was guilty of the crime or whatever, but the plea bargain was, say, for 7 years. Say the guy was looking at 7 years in prison. That was, what he was looking at. That was a penalty, whatever. And then the plea bargain, basically what the plea bargain is, it's an agreement between you and the state saying, you're not going to go to trial. You're going to accept this deal instead for lesser time. Usually that's how it works. But in this case, or in those cases where most cases are in trial, it's because the plea bargain is no good. It's basically the plea bargain is here. Sign this deal for 5 years. And the most you're looking at is 7. So then the guy says, well, I'm not gonna sign this deal when I can only save myself 2 years. It's better to roll the dice and see if I get 0, or if I get 7, I get 7 instead of the 5 they're offering. And again, I would say that was at least 80% of the cases that we had and 80% of the trials we did when I was a public defender. It was because of that reason, just because the plea offer wasn't so good. And so that's the reality. But again, the prosecutors should never have an innocent guy that they're prosecuting. There should never be like a Perry Mason moment in the courtroom where, you stand up and you point to the back of the room and that's who really did it. It never should be like that because the prosecutors can dismiss if that person is factually innocent. If the prosecutor has if the defendant has an airtight alibi that he's in California when the crime was committed in Arizona, then that should never end up in court. Essentially, the defense lawyer, the guy's lawyer, should be able to call the prosecutor and say, here's a video of my client in California when the crime was committed in Arizona. You need to dismiss this case. And in my case, when I was a public defender, every one of those times where I had an innocent guy, the state dismissed the charges. I was never in court where I could point to the back of the room and say, well, he did it and not the guy sitting here at the table. So again, it's just TV. That's just TV law. That's why, TV law and real life law are completely different. So anyways, I hope that helps. Like I said, if you're involved in the criminal justice system, that's the reality of kind of like the machinery. Most people plead guilty. The state, they have the power to dismiss. If there's an innocent case, whatever, the prosecutors will dismiss. And I will say, that think about it, obviously there's people who've been innocently accused and, on death row and things like that. There's examples of that, obviously, but those are very, very, very few. And again, just for completeness, I guess. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.